at 6 o'clock. Should have scheduled that different. And then I will ask Diane to do the roll call.
You trustee Fluger,
Present.
trustee Hess. Trustee Hummel,
Present.
trustee Radke,
Here.
trustee Zerflu,
Here.
You know,
Do you know Rick was not gonna be here?
I didn't.
I'll just text.
Okay, I'm like, maybe I missed something. I could have. Just remember all my emails came in today that I didn't see. All right, public comments. Dave, you said no, you don't need to talk. Okay. We did get a email from Larry Isense. Ben will forward that later and then we'll put that under, public comments for the meeting minutes. Other than that, then we'll go to village president's comments, number 4. I really only have, we had a meeting, Ben and I had a meeting with Chief Goodrow and Mayor Zacher of Wisconsin Rapids last week. There is, obviously, our ambulance coverage is good for another 2 years. So we have our contract going for another 2 years. However, that fee is going to go up significantly. There's a packet here. We will also email it to you electronically, or no, it's in front of you. That's right. So just something to look through. Obviously, we don't necessarily need to make a decision on this tonight, but it is something that we do need to think about going forward, how we are going to pay for the cost difference. It's going from the $26 per capita to 56. There's a letter in here. There's explanations in here for all of this stuff. So I won't harbor on it too much tonight. I want you guys to be able to go back and look at it really good. If you have questions, you can give Ben or I a call because we were at that meeting. We'll kind of compile those questions as well. They are planning on coming to maybe the November meeting and presenting it to us because they have to get answers for all the municipalities that are in that darker shade. Their contract is up this year. So those are the ones that they're kind of really focusing on getting their answer essentially before going forward with this, what they call as a cooperative more. What they are asking for us though to consider is doing a 2-year contract at that $56 to kind of, I don't want to say extend what we have because it's separate, but that way they get everybody on the same 4-year rotation instead of having a few municipalities here and a few municipalities there. But just look over the information. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask or compile those, and then hopefully they'll be here in November to be able to go through that. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Any questions from the top? But it's just, I think it's important that we be mindful of this going through budget season.
Hello, Rick.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure when I wrote it there, sorry. So we'll go into number 5, the 2026 budget development work session. Obviously, this is gonna be the first of many, making sure that we have a sound budget going into 2026. And beyond really kind of planning for that. So Ben, I'll have you kind of.
So I'm gonna hit a couple points. We talked about some things in FHR and then I'm gonna turn over to the chiefs. So if they wanna leave the meeting early, they can. So obviously one big question to talk has been healthcare, right? Anybody that's been around the village board knows October, early November is when we get the healthcare numbers. So, me and Diane have been working on the budget, put some numbers in there, but the healthcare, we won't know the exact numbers till end of October, early November. So those are always touch and go. And if you listen to the news, I know they keep saying one thing, but we'll see where it goes. Last year, I think it was right around 4%. So we're still hoping for that same number this year. Otherwise, when it comes to wages, we're gonna have a closed session, maybe even earlier than our normal November FHR meeting, and that meeting will discuss wages for all departments, department heads, and employees. So that'll be a closed FHR meeting. Like I said, we're gonna work on scheduling that in the next couple days. So probably be more end of October for that meeting. Otherwise, as we go through the budget, remember these numbers change. met with the department heads in the last week, working on getting numbers. I have been working on getting numbers in the spreadsheet. This is a rough draft. I will ask at the end of the night, unless you really want to take it home, to hand it back into me. And through the departments, we'll be bringing you the budget. It changes all the time, and in a couple years ago, we had a lot of copies going around and this number and that number. Like I said, departments will be able, and committees will be able to go through each budget line item through their departments. We can discuss that. If you'd like to take it, that's fine. If you have any questions on any of the different line items, stop down, talk to Diana and myself. I know Eric came in today and we just went over each line, right? There's a lot of lines. Where does money go? Until you really break it down and understand it, it can be overwhelming. You know, like when it comes to wages and salaries, you know, my wages come out of wastewater, water, public works, engineer. So it's a lot of different areas that wages are coming out. This is a rough draft that we started. Tonight we came here for the department heads to state what they're looking for in 2026, and looking for the board to give some direction on if there's anything you've heard of from residents, something you guys would like us to look at, so we can break that down more and come with you know, better data, I guess, during committee meetings. And so at this point, I guess we'll go to the fire chief first. Which if you look in your packet, I believe that is going to be starting on page 6, and that'll start with the fire department wages. As you look in, as we talked about this year, you know, the spreadsheet we have, it discussed previous year, actual year. And it shows proposed budget. So at this point, I'm gonna have Dustin kind of pose what he's looking for in 2026 for budget.
All right, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. I really didn't change a whole lot in my budget other than after getting vehicles kind of squared away, the ones that we currently have, that kind of reduced a little bit of my fire truck maintenance. And we're also going to be going back to doing our own hose testing here in the village instead of paying for a company to do it. That should save me a decent amount of change to be able to keep it here and use it for other things. One thing you'll see, I did increase my capital outlay a little bit from 10,000 to 15 for expenses for vehicles, that kind of stuff around the station. I am looking at vehicle replacements in the future. I built a capital outlay for replacing the rescue, replacing the engine 3, as well as the brush truck and engine 2. Engine 3 and the brush truck won't get replaced until 2029 when we're done with our current payments on engine 1. And I'm hoping to replace the rescue. I'm looking at applying for EMS grants to replace the rescue in 26. But we'll see. I mean, if I don't get the grants, then obviously it can't happen because I know the village doesn't have extra funds around for that. But I'm hoping to be able to find grants to make that happen next year. Yeah, and like I said, I built a capital outlay for all the other vehicles other than engine 1, just because engine 1 wouldn't be getting replaced until 2039. And I'm not sure I'm even going to be alive then. Does anybody have any questions on it so far?
Any questions for Chief Lees?
So I'm just gonna add a few things. So right now, like he said, our last truck payment will be the end of 2028. Right now, that loan was originally taken out for $468,000 at a 3.5%. So I know that, you know, as we get in the next couple of years, we'll be discussing that over to somebody and that's where that loan payment is at right now, in the 3.5% interest. So I think Chief is gonna bring his capital plan through Public Safety Committee here in the next meeting.
Yep, that was kind of my goal, was to present it to public safety, and then after that it can get moved to the board if it needs to, or when it needs to, I should say.
So the bottom line, again, we're just working, these numbers can change, you know, if you look at the bottom line of his budget, we're, you know, relative to where we were in 2025. Again, things are subject to change, but right now, that's where it's at. Obviously this year's 114 because it's due to the grant. So, you know, it's not that he spent over his budget, it's he had grant money to cover his overages. Any questions for me at all for that, on that budget line items?
I guess just that, so his proposed budget, it can change, but it's about 104.
Got 104, 250. Last
Okay.
year was 103, 850.
And how much did they get in the grant? Was it 10,000?
His total grants was almost 30.
30?
Diane's probably got the exact numbers.
That's at the minute, doesn't.
I have it.
There's a couple different ones, right?
It was for 19,307.28 and another one for 2,138. So about 21,000 some.
In grants, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping to do the same thing again this year for finding grants and hopefully be able to replace the rescue, just because the current rescue is 21 years old already. And there's no, I guess, there was no plan moving forward on how to replace it. So I'm hoping that I can get grants again this year and replace it with no cost to the village, or no added, I guess, debtness to the village, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, thanks for looking for the grants. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that, chief.
I love free money just as much as the next person, so I'll take it.
Anything else for the fire chief? Nick,
Oh, you go ahead. No, go ahead.
rock, paper, scissors.
Sure. Chief, what's the run out time on, like, when do we need a commitment? If we're gonna replace by 29, do we need a commitment in 27, 28?
No, they're really good about just holding the place for us in their build time, I guess you'd say.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I've been working really close with SNR and they're really good to us as far as that goes.
So we'll be in the line. We don't need to necessarily make a commitment to get
Correct.
full build time.
Yeah, if that I guess if that's the best way to put it.
That makes sense.
Trustee Hummel?
Yeah, Chief, thanks. I appreciate the information and so forth. Chief, what are your primary goals for 2026 for the fire department?
2026, I would like to replace the rescue if I can. Just because, like I said, the age of it alone, and that's one of our most utilized vehicles that we have.
Okay,
Or is the most utilized vehicle that we use on the fire department right now. And I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. I'd also like to see possibly looking at getting some turnout gear, starting to work on replacing a set or two here, here and there, just to work on that just through my budget. Those are my big goals for 26 right now.
do you, what about staffing? Tell me about that. Are you looking in 2026? Are you set up well for that, for staffing?
Yeah, we're doing really good on staffing, especially like I said, since when I took over back in June of last year, we are eons ahead. I mean, we're up to 21 members right now, and I started out at 9. And it's really slowed down as far as like the amount of people that have been applying, which is okay. We're getting that 30 is my cutoff for as many people as I can have on the roster at the fire department, and then we'd have to start a waiting list. So
Okay.
again, we're at like 21 right now is extremely good, and especially when you talk to other departments around and how difficult it is to find staffing. I'm really impressed with the amount of people who have come forward and wanted to volunteer their time for us.
Yeah, it's very impressive, and I personally really appreciate that as well. I'm sure the other board members do too. I just wonder if that is a goal, is to maintain and even increase the staffing for next year.
Yeah, if I can get it up to 30, I'd be happy. But like I said, on the same token, if we maintain where we're at right now, I'm also happy with that.
Yeah, that's why I said maintain and or increase.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of my main goal. But if we, like I said, if we stay up this 21, I am happy because we have a lot of, and it's not just 21 of like roster fillers. We, pretty much everybody on the roster participates and comes to calls. They might not make every call, but they do participate and come to quite a few of them. So it's really really, really great, actually, I'll say.
Yeah, again, very impressive. I just want to make sure that we're supporting any effort that may be needed. If there are people that drop off or whatever, we still want to get to at least 21 and maybe up to 30 if that's kind of a stretch goal, right?
Yeah, 30 to be a little bit up on the high end in today's life of volunteers and
Yeah.
finding them. That's a little bit of a stretch, but I still, like keeping that number just so that way, if we ever do get to that point, we could still have them. But yeah, I've had nothing but great things between the PFC, the village president, village admin, you guys as board members, public safety committee have been nothing but great to me as far as supporting me and trying to get interviews through and all the things as fast as they can to get people on board and so they're not waiting forever.
Yeah, I appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Anything else for the fire chief? No? All right.
Before we go into the police chief, I'm just gonna make a couple comments. So when you look at his budget in 2025, when I was budgeting the chief's replacement at that time, we didn't know where that number was gonna go, if it was gonna be in-house, out-house, what we're gonna do. So,
Outhouse.
that number was definitely budgeted quite high last year. Just, we didn't know if Scott was gonna be here to train and a lot of things. So, as we look at that budget, as Brandon goes through it, that was one number that was definitely considerably high this year. And again, I will take some of the heat on that because we didn't know where we were gonna be. So that is why that number definitely is higher than what expected. The only other big things in that I will make a note before I give to Brandon is police car fund right now has $20,000 in it. So that is the 400 account that I'm sure Brandon will be addressing as he gives over his budget. That's all I have.
Take her away, chief.
All right, kind of shadow what Chief Lee said. It's been great working with the board and all the committees and stuff so far this year. I didn't anticipate seeing myself in this position a couple of years ago, but it's been a great ride so far. Learning how to do budgets and stuff has definitely been easier working with Ben and with everybody else. We'll say that as well. Not a lot of change with the police department budget for next year. A couple things like Ben had mentioned with the squad. The oldest squad we have is a 2018 and it's still in good working order. However, anticipating in 2 years, the replacement of that car. If we can continue on track with what we have with the 20,000, budgeting another 10,000 into that fund this year. And then again, right away in the 27 budget, we will be able to take care of that, purchasing that car without taking out a loan. It'll all be covered within, purchasing some equipment, prior to, which will allow us to help with the current squad situation, which includes putting a light bar on the car that doesn't have a light bar. It'll just help safety wise. We can do that prior to the next car getting purchased. And so the squad car is the big thing, the big purchase, and that's always going to be the big purchase for the police department. But if we can get on task and have that, we won't have to take loans out for our vehicles. And it'll be easier knowing that that's coming down the pipe. The conferences and training, I would ask that we up that a little bit. Having newer officers, to try to get them up to snuff on some extra trainings and, the way that the world is going, there's definitely a need for the training for everyone. So that is up a little bit. A couple categories, went down with knowing that if I'm gonna ask for a little bit more money in some areas, if I can lower in a couple others, I'm fine with that, being able to do that. The capital outlay, is from 5,000 to 10,000 for next year, knowing that with the squad coming up the year right after in 27, if there's any other equipment that we'll need to purchase for that squad, we can use some of that, as well as supplies and tools for the squads we have with the capital outlay, that we can purchase to have in all of the squad cars. Ben kind of touched a little bit on wages, not knowing what was gonna happen with Scott retiring and who was gonna get hired. The fact that the budget's 24,000 less, that's expected, based on what our pay wages would be at the 226. Obviously, the wages for myself are considerably less than they would have been, but that will also help and take into play a little bit, so. Don't, like I said, not a ton of change, kind of let it run its course this year, and I'm always open to suggestions and help if people are willing to give their input as I'm learning as I go as well, so.
I have a question. I know it went down, which I'm not gonna complain about, but my concern is shared revenue, because I think with police and
No, it's
fire,
police, just fire,
just fire.
because we're small enough for the police.
Okay.
We don't have to do that with.
Thanks, Diane. You're the best. Because I was like, oh, I feel like that could be a problem. All right. Moving on. Does anybody else have any questions besides that one? That was my concern. Sorry, chief, go ahead. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? No?
I do have a couple, sorry. Same with you, Brendan. What would you say then in summary, what your three biggest goals are for the year? That's one question.
Continue having Josiah and Mason spend a lot of time in the schools and grow as school resource officers. Josiah is the designated school resource officer, but having both of them in schools and learning the school's policies, procedures, training. Josiah is actually going to a training in a couple days on analysts, that's active shooter type stuff on the eastern part of the state. Just continuation, just because we're a small department doesn't mean that you can't grow with our officers and have them trained as well. So trainings, myself continue to train and get better. I learned a lot in the last 8-9 months as I've gone down this road, and I'm excited to learn more. So training on both ends, and then just continue to work with Ben, with Department of Public Works and Ben, and with ordinance issues, bettering our village in general. To keep it a place that people want to continue to live and move here. There aren't very many houses that stay in the market in the village. They go because people are happy to come here.
I have one other question, but I did want to comment about that. One of the things I've really appreciated is you have continued that sense of police work as being peacekeepers as much as defending against crime. And I think that discretion is really, really important. That's been a value of the community, in my opinion, and will probably continue to be important as we look at ordinances and what may or may not be asked to do that too. So I think that's very, very important. And that's a skill set that I hope all three of you continue to grow and use, and I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I know that the police department purchased some weapons last year. Are you fully set in terms of equipment to do the job that you need to do and to protect your safety of your employees for next year?
Specifically in regard to firearms and in general.
In general,
Oh.
I just included weapons because I knew you
We just
invested
purchased them.
in that
Yep.
last year.
We are, there's always room to grow. I'll give you a perfect example. There's a piece of equipment, it's called the wrap. If someone is actively trying to harm themselves or us and we have to take them into custody, it's a new tool that came out a couple
Oh,
years
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
And my goal is to purchase 3 of those. So every squad car has it, and if it's needed, the company that makes them, they come in, they train us how to use it. So there is equipment that I'd like to get and supplies for next year, but yes, I'm happy where we're at. I've always thought we've had good equipment since I've started here, and I had mentioned that to Scott Drew when he was the chief, that we have good equipment. There's always room to grow in that category. But yeah,
You're feeling pretty good, but
yes.
ballpark figure, how much is it, is a wrap?
They're about $1,200 a piece.
Okay.
Yep. And I know somebody might ask, why not just get one? Cause if I'm somewhere else and the other officer that has it is 10 minutes away, you know, so.
I get
But
it.
yeah, so they're about $1,200 and some other stuff that I'd like to do is, not get new tasers, cause that would cost a lot of money and the tasers we have work, but update cartridges, batteries, and that's just maintenance on them.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you very much.
you bet.
You did say going from 9 mil to, you went vice versa, you went to 9 mil.
We
The
went from-
ammunition is cheaper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that reflected in your, I think you had range weapons here?
Yep.
Went down $400?
It did,
That's part of that?
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I was wondering why that was, but you mentioned that new platform, 9 mil is
Correct,
more cost effective.
considerably.
Okay, any other questions for Chief Abbott?
Again, if you look at the bottom line for the police, getting rough numbers. Last year, we were at 298. This year, we're at 286 due to the wage change, so.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Well, I'm gonna try to keep it short, keep it sweet here, but make sure everybody keeps asking questions. Guess we're gonna start kind of in the beginning of your packet. Yeah, I'm not gonna go line item to line item, right? If you have a question, what comes out of line item, what it does, why it is.
The chiefs are dismissed if they wanna go. Thank you.
Hey, guys.
First, as we get into it, I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna we talk about employees. We have a great staff, right? If it comes to the chiefs, it comes to the public works, the office staff. Obviously, we've got some longevity here. I mean, you start talking 20-some years, Mark's getting almost close to 30, so, it's a key, right? And it's always, I think some years, over the years, these jobs might have been a little more higher demand. It was easier to keep employees. Nowadays, try to give something to these employees to keep them coming back every year is definitely a challenge. I think it's also important to retain good staff. So that's something that I'm definitely gonna be working through the whole board, through FHR to make sure we can compensate the staff somehow, because I think over the years, with the change of the position of my position alone, cuts over the years, everybody's picked up the slack to make sure we can keep running as a functional village. If it's office staff, I mean, we're used to having 3 full-time people in there. I try to get as much as I can, but the girls do a great job keeping things going and definitely there. The crew's the same way, right? They're used to having a full-time public works guy out there every day working with them, and we don't have that anymore, but everybody's picked it up. And I feel that we can continue to do the same service that we always have in the past in a professional way. And I think that's very important. So as we go through this, that's just something, if I don't remind myself, and you guys will keep it, we do need to take care of the employees as we move forward. I don't see any big change in staffing this year. Nobody's let me know about retirements, things like that. I do think in the near future, we're gonna have some, but we'll address those when we get there. So at that, like I said, at that point, we'll take it, go. We tried to train everybody on the staff to do different jobs so we can fill every position. Wastewater and water are always tough. We've got 2 operators, but to have more people in that position trained is always important. So that's one thing we might be discussing in the FHR is bringing on another wastewater weekend operator. I think one of the gentlemen might be stepping down from the weekends and we can bring a new guy in. So we've got more people that know the job and can fill in. So more details on that to come. Like I said, healthcare, right now we're sitting fine this year. You never know with the retirees and things like that. The different plans we have in our healthcare, what's gonna come out, but right now, Diane and I feel good about where we're at this year, and we're hoping for a good number to come for healthcare in the next couple weeks. So that's kind of where the healthcare is. Legal counseling for the village, that's our attorney. I feel we've done a good job from the board. Employees not trying to lean on him. We lean on for the important things, so we're gonna try to reduce that maybe a little bit this year. We're right there teeter-tottering. Right now, we're at 8,000 and we budget 14 a year, so we're looking at seeing if we can, keep that down unless we have something come up. Another big ticket item is obviously the IT. The FHR committee has been working. We've got a new website company, which we have a little initial fee up front. This year, we've already paid for the initial changeover from the website, and the next year we'll start on our basis of $1,000 for the IT support for that. So I do think we're excited about that, and I don't, put a little more budget money in, but I think that'll be definitely well worth the money. We're still working on a server project that we've been working on for the last year or so. I think we're getting closer every day, but those numbers, can change every day on the budget, waiting for that final bill to come in for the server, and hopefully it's this year, maybe it's next year. Last year, we did a budget all the way around trying to plan for it, and we never received it in 2024. So that's through the Wood County. I know they've been busy doing the best they can to help us out for that. With that server upgrade, we're also getting a couple new computers for the office staff, and we're working on the laptops that some of the board members didn't want anymore. We took those on to the department, to the fire department, other departments. So that's definitely a line that can change as the budget goes. It's like I said, Diane and I watch that daily when bills come in, the server, where that's gonna go. We talk about the meeting room here of putting a new system in with a simple camera and a simple one button touch for recording to doing meetings. And we've gotten some numbers at 3,500, but that's gonna kind of be end of the year. See where the numbers are this year, see where they are number, if we can afford it, right? That's what we have works. It'd be nice to improve it. But we also got to get the server running first and get the computers to the staff, which is more important on a day-to-day basis. It's crazy, and I'm not an IT person. It's crazy what IT licenses and certification. You shake your head when they send you a bill, what it costs to run a computer. Every email address has to have a cost to it. Like I said, pencil and paper went a long ways, but it's technology. We got to stay up with it, and we don't want to get behind. So we definitely do need to keep improving that. Our buildings, that's people, when you look at a budget, people don't consider, but we have a lot of different buildings, right? We have the municipal building next door, a very old building. We're trying to maintain at a low fee. We've got the Marshall Bueller Center here, which, I think we've got our loan payment on this building is gonna end in 2028. So that's $11,000 a year that we're paying for this building, which will end in 2028. So, as this gets paid off, hopefully we don't need any maintenance and we can look at maintaining a different building. The village garage, fire station, it's coming on almost 30 years. It's gonna need some attention. The guys have done a good job. We do the best we can to seal everything up, but it's gonna need some TLC. So it's definitely something I'm working on every day with the chiefs and the staffs, we can do to improve that area of property and maintain it at a high level. So when you look at the general government, right, it's a big number. Last year, if you look at, and we budgeted 825, did our best. Diane's been working her tail off, doing a great job. We're proposing to drop in that this year of almost 10 grand. Again, that can change, see where the numbers come. But right now we're looking to try to put a little cut in their nets due to the, not using illegal, doing other things and do everybody doing a little extra to save a little bit. But again, I'm not gonna get too excited. All of a sudden, some numbers could come in and we could have to change that in a quick hurry, right, Diane? But right now we're sitting good. Board expenses come out. I guess if you guys have anything from the board side that, we're missing, we've got the iPads to anybody that wanted them and trying to keep everybody updated and informed, but there's something you feel that we're missing, that's where that all comes out of that line item also. So does anybody have any questions kind of on the general government line? So we did the police and the fire, so we're gonna move into public works.
Quick question.
Yep.
I'm just trying to formulate, you use a broker for your P&L and for your work comp insurance.
But
We use our,
You use a broker, right? Like. you
a
just-
broker
yeah, it's a
From,
municipal property insurance.
okay.
Yeah.
So they shop for you, they tell you what your renewal rate is gonna be.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if you were on the open marketplace, if you were looking at options, viability, but yeah. You're with them, there's really not a whole lot of flexibility.
What page are we starting on, Ben?
Let's go to page 9, I think, right? Public Works.
Eight,
eight.
bottom of eight.
8. So, like we talked about before, you know, my salary a little bit comes out of the Public Works Department. Rest of that is, on this page, is pretty self-explanatory, uniforms, things like that. We did some change over the years. It used to be shirts, and we've cut some down, give the employees just an allowance, to try to reduce that number, so. I don't know if we got any more there. Tools and supplies, right, that's our general. I'll be honest with you, you can never have enough in that, but, the guys do a good job maintaining, right? If it's a bee spray, paint, I mean, it's a lot of miscellaneous come out of that. Other than that, the big ticket items, I guess we'll get into is the heavy equipment, right? In 2000, you know, I probably was the one to simply drop some numbers. You know, this year we dropped that down to $40,000. I can't make it. I mean, we're sitting at, you know, 40,000 today, and we got a couple months left in sucker season, so, you know, realistic, it's gonna be up almost 45,000. So we're looking at increasing that in 2026. You know, as anybody knows at home, maintaining vehicles is a struggle. There's nothing cheap about it. Everything gets more, but, you know, we have to maintain the vehicles we had at a high level. We don't have a full-time mechanic here. And we need equipment ready to go for safety or for the use at all times. So I'll keep working that number, see what we can do as the year goes on. Capital improvement, this year we put the $30,000 in there, which purchased a lawnmower and a truck. Gave us a little bit of leeway left. We got a little bit left in the 400 account. In 2027, we'll be looking at purchasing a leaf sucker truck. Now we've got 3 big trucks. When we plow snow, when we pick up, I mean, we need all 3 big ones in the winter for sure. Summertime, we need 2. If a sucker truck would break down, we need a spare. The one that we replaced in 2013. So justification's not there. I mean, unfortunately, these trucks are crazy, right? I mean, some 20-some years ago when I started, these trucks were buying them for $80,000. I mean, now we're looking, the price of dump truck's probably gonna be in the 150s to 170s. You know, it changes on a day-to-day basis, so we're looking at putting $60,000 this year, 60,000 next year, gets us at 120. Maintain the truck we have at a good level, for a good trade-in, and see if we can't get a new truck in 2027 without borrowing. So that's gonna be the goal. And we'll keep that up, keep you updated if we go to next year's budget, but that $60,000 is kind of an important number in 2026. Again, we're not gonna be spending it, but we need to start building up that account so we're not borrowing. Unfortunately, a couple years ago, we got ourselves in borrowing for an end loader. First time we've ever borrowed for equipment. Luckily, we only had to borrow for half the end loader, and that loan will be up in 2029 of $32,000. So, I'm really gonna try to work hard, and I know the, Public Works Committee will too, to see if we can't purchase that truck without borrowing 2027. I have no problem running it 2 more years, but after that, we'll have to look to replace it. So that'll be a key item moving forward. Streets and roads maintenance, right? You can never have enough, right? We gotta cut a line somewhere. What are we gonna do, right? 2025 was a great year. Did Verbunker, did the storm pipe underneath Verbunker, patched a lot of different areas, did some chip sealing, did a lot of things that need to be done to maintain the roads. But it's gonna get tougher as we move forward. The tips, obviously, in the last couple of years, I've been able to do street projects. You take a block of road right now, complete rebuild is 300 to 500,000, depending on how deep the water line is, how many services, what we do. So, you know, the goal has always been from the village aspect to put money in a 400 account for streets and roads to not have to borrow. Build it up for 3 years and do a $400,000 road. Over the past 5 years, we've been struggling as a budget to put more than $50,000-$60,000 in a streets and roads budget, right? 10 years ago, we ought to put 150,000 in it. That's just what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, but I think it's strong, important to try to do it. This year we put 150 in the budget. We're gonna spend a little more and cause from other areas to make sure we get the culvert line and everything paid for. But next year we're gonna drop it down a little bit. that number can change. We'll see where things go here in the next couple weeks as we work in the budget. But definitely as you look to break down, do the $20,000 in patching, do the shouldering, do the traffic paint, the chip sealing was through the wheel tax, and do the crack filling, which is very important. The new blacktop, we have to keep chip sealing on it to maintain the roads. So as Public Works Committee keeps discussing, they'll be discussing that. We've got a plan for chip sealing. We've got a road project plan. We'll keep working hard to maintain those. So those are big ticket items. As of right now, if you turn the next page, we're looking at putting the $40,000 into the streets and roads fund. It's not a lot, but you know what? We're making an attempt to put money into that account. Very important. So, as we get into the budget later in the year and if something comes up, that those numbers can change, but we're gonna try to maintain that. Snow and ice control are always a big thing, every winter, if you read something or listen to the radio, they say it's gonna be the big one, and we've seen them been dodging those lately. A lot of ice, so we've been using big amounts of salt, and trying to scrape more. I feel we're pretty good with those numbers. We did, pretty much leave everything right where it's at, because you gotta remember, you end the year, this year, we end the year out of the 2025 budget, and then we start next year with 2026, and then next winter, we still gotta start with 2026, so depending where it's at, it can change in a quick beat, so, keep maintaining, the guys are doing the best they can, eliminating the salt, and trying to do different things to, keep those expenses down. Tree and brush, we've got a grant last year, did some planting of some trees, did some tree trimming. I think we're pretty close on the ash borer disease. It took a nasty turn through the village. If anybody's been around, we've cut quite a few trees. I believe we're getting down there. We'll keep applying for grants to replace the trees and maintain what we have. So I don't see any big change in the future coming there. Some of them big trees are pushing up the sidewalk, so you really gotta justify, do you wanna plant a tree and have the sidewalk pushed up and then we end up cutting it down? So I think we're gonna do a little better job trying to, survey where we put trees, try to keep them away from the sidewalks. It just causes hectic down the road for those areas. Street lighting, people ask me, why is the street lighting? Well, the River Drive street lights in downtown are owned and maintained by the village of Port Edwards. Everything in town and the side streets are Power and Light. We pay a monthly bill for them, which definitely saved us money, but the lights on Wisconsin River Drive and downtown do cost us quite a bit. We do have to maintain them. They did change some to LED this year. You'll see a change this year, and we budgeted 40,000. Why we only estimated at 13,000? Well, we changed last year. If you remember the road construction project, we did change some to LED. Did have some reimbursement back. Some basically they kind of cut us a check because they overpaid last year. So we're just kind of waiting for that final number to see if it's going to be the 40,000 with the new LED light fixture. So we're hoping maybe we make an adjustment. Right now we have to put at 40 just to know that's what the total was in the past. But that number we'll be working on in the future to see if the new bulbs, less electricity, if that'll change that. So hoping that may get us some little extra funds. 2026 is going to be a sidewalk year. So if you look at the sidewalks, we did increase that up a little bit. Again, we're just talking about if you do walk around the village, these trees in different areas have uprooted the sidewalks and it's a tripping hazard. So due to liability, safety of the residents, we definitely gonna do some sidewalk repairs next year. That's all in-house. The guys do the pouring. We have the forms and things like that. So biggest expense there is the concrete. So that's one big change we made over the last couple of years. We're pouring that in-house, and it's a big money saver. We can do a lot of sidewalks with the crew we have. Curb and gutter. This year with the paving of a bunker in different areas, we had a little extra curb and gutter. Next year we're back to the normal repair work and things like that. Obviously we just dealt with the next following page. We dealt with the new contract for garbage and recycling. So we're working on those numbers, getting those in, everything where those belong. So when it comes to Public Works, if you look at it, I should have mentioned this before, my bad, but we have the 110, which is salaries, and down below you always have the 310, which is expenses. So the salaries, when you take this whole budget, we're taking our wages out for all the workers, plus doing the work on that. It's a big number. It's also some juggling, as we talk about employees, making sure there's enough covered in the Public Works budget to to cover their employees' wages and summer help and things like that. So at the end of the day, 2026, it's again drafted item, looking at 800,000, and 2025 was 793. Again, the increase, the 400 accounts, we talked about it, we went from 30 to 60, trying to put some extra money away. So that's one thing the Public Works, the board, we all need to be working on, what the number one thing is, what we need to be working on. But, if you see a bad road, street, we need to prioritize the roads as best we can. We do have plans for the roads to maintain them, to try to keep all the roads safe and at a high level. I guess we went through it kind of quick, but I guess if anybody has any questions, I definitely would like to clarify anything from that part of the budget.
Mr. Home?
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Appreciate it. And today, the download and so forth. So with the refuge contract and collection and recycling, are those offset by, or are those just for, are those citizen, related costs, or?
So this would be the sucker, and Diane can correct me, and I believe this is the grass pickup, right, Diane?
The recycling, yes, the salaries. As far as the ones that say contract, we do put that charge on our tax bills. So
That's what I was asking.
So it's on the revenue side.
So it gets, it gets balanced
Should
out
be, yeah.
by that. That's what I
Yeah.
wasn't using the right words, but thank you very much about that.
Okay,
Okay, and that's the same with the recycling contract as well?
Yep.
Thanks.
And as we're on that topic, obviously, we just went through no contract. No matter which contract, there was gonna be an increase on people's taxes this year, so I'll do the best I can when we do the tax bills to get a letter out to inform residents. I just don't want misinformed that just because we went with a different contractor, the fee was gonna go up no matter what. So, I know somebody's gonna see that and say, well, you jumped company and it went up. It went up. No matter which company we have, they're within 3 cents. We remember when that decision came. But that obviously, including to Mr. Humble's question, that'll be on your tax bill. So that's, I guess, a burden on the taxpayers. So again, if nobody has any questions on that, we'll move into the next one.
Questions? Anybody else? No?
The next part of this is shelter houses and parks. The bottom line is as committees, as we talk, you look at the parks salaries, it's crazy, the amount it takes to maintain parks. We have high level of parks, with the good summers, we have the grass been growing in Ripple Creek. Sometimes we're mowing that twice a week, and it takes one guy 10 hours to mow Ripple Creek Park. The splash pad, we got it free of charge, right? But somebody's gotta go down every day and blow the leaves off it. We gotta pressure wash it every month and maintain it. So, and I'm a big parks guy, Ripple Creek, we're putting a brand new playground set this year through Legacy Grant. But it costs money to maintain these parks. So as we get into conversations in here a few years, when people say, well, maybe somebody will give us that land and we can build a park. I mean, I don't want to be, I'll support anything, but just remember, this line item keeps going up and up to maintain these parks at a high level, right? If the board decides we want to take these parks and we're only going to mow them once a week and you're going to have what you have, I guess that's a decision we can make as a group, but to maintain them, and I try not to send guys out there, but when the grass is 6-8 inches tall and somebody's got to rent it for the weekend, I don't want to be that guy getting that call on Saturday that why is the grass so long and things like that. So I don't mean to be on a soapbox for the parks. They're expensive. When Diane shows me what they cost to maintain, and it's crazy, but it's a strong point we have in the village. So I guess, like I said, to keep everything maintained, we have the splash pads and everything like that. We're gonna keep that number going. So you're gonna see an increase this year from 2025, 82 up to 97. And I think we were being very conservative on that. The parks, we did have to replace the door at the shelter. The Lions paid for half of the door. So, we're using every resource we can to maintain our parks. We've got legacy grants coming. So we're just gonna keep after the best we can to maintain the parks. So that's something that we'll work with, trustee Hummel's committee and just keep them updated, but, I think it's a key important, you know, we've got a lot of little areas in town, but we've got to keep maintaining them.
Any questions on parks? Alright. Did we skip cemetery or were I black out?
Yeah, I mean, the cemetery pretty much.
I mean,
There's really
I
nothing,
think it's pretty,
nothing there, you know, what we can maintain it, you know, that's another thing. Years ago, when I first started, we had a sprinkler system, the whole thing, we were maintaining it, and I know we have a gentleman out here that used to love when we'd sprinkle his flowers, so he didn't have to drive down here and bring water down, but it was an expense thing, right? Our old pipe went to heck in the ground, and we got quotes for hundreds of thousands to replace it all, and we don't water that part of the cemetery, and I know it's definitely, in the summertime, I do get a lot of calls why we didn't, but it just come down to numbers, you know, so. So the last sheet that we'll get into, is pretty, you know, building inspector. I'm hoping I've had some contact with him. I think we're in the same number. He does a good job, does what we need to do. I feel pretty confident about what we have moving forward with that. So again, you know, the bottom numbers are really nothing to get too crazy about this point. You know, we're still working through the budget. Obviously, Diane's getting numbers from the state, you know, what our final budget numbers are gonna be, what do things look like from a tax rate, things like that, which is all given to us by the government, as you guys are all aware of. So, so we're just trying to get some numbers down. I'm looking definitely, you know, if it's not tonight, give me a call, give Diane a call if you have questions, if there's something, you know, you guys, you know, we do this, why that? If, you know, you were getting some calls, definitely reach out to us and, you know, give me some direction of where you'd like and we will try to add this. But this gets us a good rough draft of the budget, for tonight. You heard from the department heads, Public Works. You know, I guess, some of Eric, almost questions, I'm gonna kind of answer them, and I'm gonna also then look for your guys for some thoughts back too. The first thing was when we did the budget last year, we had a lot of the budget is, right now, it's looking like the budget this year is gonna be good. Departments are doing good. Everybody's staying within numbers, you know, sometimes we're sitting here saying freeze and no expenses. But, you know, numbers are coming in, but I think we're sitting in good shape. The chiefs have did a great job this year. Public Works has probably spent a little bit more this year. Some projects kind of got away, but, you know, just some road project, but I think we're within numbers. To stay within, and we'll keep adjusting those numbers and keep working on them as we move forward. But I think, as a staff and as a village board, we've done a great job putting a budget together for 2025, and I think things go good, we can follow through with it. And, you know, 2026, it's not gonna be any easier, right? As we all know at home, wherever you are, costs keep driving up, income isn't really changing, same as at home, right? We're not collecting more money, so we need to keep trying to maintain at a high level, but you know, that time is gonna come, as we talked a little bit ago earlier, you know, the ambulance, where's that gonna come? You know, in the last few years, I look at, we've always found a way, we've maybe gone away from administrator, maybe gone away from this and this and that, you know, every year we've found a way to cut something, and this year's probably the first year. You know, we don't have a lot of leeway, you know, we don't have that extra staff, we don't have an extra this and that to cut, so, we need to keep working hard and trying to keep these numbers, where they're at to sustain a good budget and also try to follow through with the budget. That's obviously the end goal. As in staff wise, I think we're in great shape, Leon. We'd love to have more, right? But we're realistic. We're within means in all departments. Like I said, do a little more training on the water side and the wastewater. And get our IT kind of buttoned up. I think that's gonna be a big burden. I know it's a little stressful on the staff, knowing that, you know, new computers are coming, when they're gonna get updated. You know, we want to, with budget season coming, tax season, we're trying to get all that finalized up this year. I'm definitely getting ready for that time of the year. I see our biggest concern in probably the next 3 or 4 years is gonna be the maintenance of buildings. You know, I'll be that guy, you know, we're working with an old municipal building, a village garage. You know, some of our parks are getting old. We've done a great job, you know, but we haven't ever had to put the big roof on the village garage over there. If you drive by the drive, I mean, but I look at it as, you know, what we need to do to keep the streets and the roads more important than putting money at our own personal buildings. So, but that's something we're gonna have to address down in the future. And, see where it goes. The last end of this deal I've got really is, you know, we okayed a CDB grant through MSA a couple months ago. The Public Works Committee will be discussing, I mean, we've got some old roads in town, Second Street, right, lead, it's all over the news. Old sewer lines. You know, we're gonna have to get creative. We're trying to do some grants, get everything we can, but in the next couple of years. I was hoping I would never be that person, but we're probably gonna have to dig down deep and look to borrow for roads, and it's gonna be some tough work that we're all gonna have to understand. You know, you gotta make the principal payment, where we're gonna find it, how we're gonna do it, but in the future, there's no way we're gonna be able to replace roads out of our village budget without serious cuts, and I don't think there isn't, you know, you see the $30,000 and $40,000, you're not gonna replace a brand new road. Definitely working with the water and the sewer to see if those budgets can help pay for some of that stuff. So that's gonna be a key important. We don't wanna get crazy with the rates, obviously. But we need to be able to put sewer and water pipe in the ground and try to pay for that without getting too crazy. So definitely more conversations that come of that in the next year. So a lot of good things, but that's also, it's realistic. We need to start planning for the future for roads and probably gonna have to borrow. So if we can keep buying vehicles without doing that, very key in the next few years to come.
Any questions for Ben? Or, I should say.
So don't want to put you on the spot. What question marks do we still have? We still have questions about what we're getting from the state, shared revenue. We have question marks about this and the fire contract, or
No,
we're
I
basically
mean,
stuck with this.
We're kind of, so we have 2 years left on our ambulance contract, how it is now.
Correct.
We, Rapids would like to know if we would want to do that additional 2-year thing. And I get where they're coming from, cause this has got a lot of moving parts. Like, let's say a whole bunch of people decide to not go with Rapids and they go with United instead. Well, that's gonna change this number. And their needs for their staffing and all that drastically. So we're kind of, this is what I said to Mayor Zacher and Chief Boudreau, we're kind of hostage to the situation, but we're also kind of in limbo at the moment too. So it's more informational at this point. Because we don't have those hard and fast numbers just yet, because like I said, a lot of those municipalities have to sign before we do. There's a lot of conversations that are gonna be happening. I think the other ambulance business in town is gonna get some questions on what they can afford to give as well. Cause I mean, let's be realistic, and if a lot of these municipalities go from Wisconsin Rapids to the other ambulance company, they're gonna have a staffing issue. So I don't think this is gonna be a quick overnight fix by any means, but it is something we do have to definitely consider. We have to provide ambulance. Right? And I can't talk a whole lot about my opinions, my views, anything like that, because it'd be a conflict of interest for me. So I'm just giving you the information, and we're obviously not voting on it. But we have to provide ambulance service, period, end of discussion. Now, which one, that's more of a discussion that I can't be a part of, but we have to provide that. That's what you guys get to debate without me necessarily.
I think we're hoping November 6th, I believe, and maybe that date's wrong. We're having another committee of the whole meeting.
Yeah.
At that point, hopefully Grand Rapids and Nakusa had, their budget, they have to set their budget, right? That they're gonna have
They have to do.
they're gonna have that hard decision if what they're gonna do. So hopefully on November 6th, when Rapids comes at that point, he's gonna say Grand Rapids is yes, Nakusa, and be able to tell us what these other communities are doing.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, what variability do we have right now? Because most of these seem like they're pretty hard and fast, like 98% of what we got is pretty good, but what do we still have that we don't know about?
You're talking for the budget itself?
Just about the budget itself, and I was just bringing this up as one example of.
Oh, we still have, I think there's 2 or 3 different line items, and the biggest thing is expenses from this year, right? What we spend this year affects next year also, right? So that's why, Diane's she does a heck of a job, but every day, a bill comes in and she's gotta change the spreadsheet, right, to see what it is. So, that's always some of the budget thing is what are we gonna have, from the following year.
But it's a good starting point. That's kind of what I was looking at.
That's what tonight was, to bring you guys in again, looking for some suggestions, right? I know last year we got the comment where, not a lot of input, so this is a draft, right? This is something Diane and I just been working on, but you know, we need it. If you guys have input, I would like to hear the input. I don't want anybody to say at the end of the year that, you know, Ben did this and I want that. I guess if we want it as a group, we need to discuss it. It's gonna go through committees, but make sure everybody has their input. So again, we're voting on this as a whole village. I'm not a it's all police, all fire. This is, we do work together as a whole, right? So, you know, some years, some departments might get this, some departments might get that this year. So I think we need to work as a whole, as a group, department heads and also with board members. So, you know, please be open with us and speak suggestions.
I think coming out of this meeting, the goal is, right, this is the first draft, this is the first swing of it. With additional information that we all kind of have to digest and kind of figure out. Coming next meeting and into the upcoming committee meetings, right? It just, our ideas and our things don't just come at the committee of the whole meetings, they come in your committee meetings as well. So coming prepared with those kinds of questions, what we can do in the short term and long term, because obviously there's a lot of these things that they're long-term, I don't want to say consequences, but what we decide, I mean, it's thousands of dollars, not just a couple $100s.
I just want to say, this is just the local part of it. So as far as the complete budget, like when we get a
Yeah.
tax rate number and that, it was very late October or beginning of November, we get the final statement of assessment. So we do need that number. We need
Yeah.
the numbers from the county, the school, and, you know, their numbers. So we really can't get it all together till like the second week in November, probably, first or second. And that's why we have something set, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Like I said, that's, again, good framework, good, you know, discussion, but I was just wondering, like, how much variability are we gonna have in the end? And you all answered my questions, so.
I would like to, before we leave today, you all got a email that Ben, and Betsy were sent today, about, Nepco Lake. And I am encouraging you to read that, and if I could just summarize a couple of points, because I think it begs a question, and that maybe that's for November in the committee. A couple of things that you ought to know. The ad hoc committee, I appreciated very much, being part of that. Learned a lot, about the 10-year agreement. I think there are, Larry has talked to a lot of the constituents. I have too, but I think coming from Larry, there's a point of view that, that's important to understand. What we learned, for better and in many cases, not great, the issue of the roads are closed. That's done. And people in Nepco Lake have to understand that, it was set up so it would never be able to be part of that. I didn't realize the extent to which, the agreement was agreed to that would close that door forever. But nonetheless, that's what it is. So what I think is being raised by residents around the lake are two things. One is taking a look at the taxes to service ratio that people on the lake are getting in terms of services. There's a woeful lack of equanimity in terms of the services that people get, and I want you to please look at what Larry has to say about that. I think the second piece, and I'll make the final point. The second piece is how do I want to say this? I'm gonna just read what Larry says. Either the village views Nepco Lake as a village resource or it doesn't. If it doesn't, say so. Because we've been dancing around this since I've been sitting in meetings for the last 4 or 5 years and now a board member. We've been dancing around it, nothing's happened. So if nothing's going to happen and you don't see it as a resource, let's just say so. My hope is that isn't the case, but I think we need to call that into question. Larry's final part about that is if it does see it as a resource, contributing a board member is an insufficient source of support. Well, actually, that's a decision by the citizens who votes that, but the question is it should contribute financially as well. I'm telling you at the annual meeting at the Lake District, the only people that are funding a public lake right now are the residents of that lake. And the 68 people that filled out a strategic plan survey, categorically, people are frustrated. As Larry puts it, he doesn't want to get into threats, and I don't either. But he says, I hear from my neighbors with the annual meeting through the strategic planning, the expression of disappointment that to calls to extreme action. I don't want to go there. I don't profess to do that. There was a motion at the annual meeting to ask Port Edwards to do something that I didn't think was appropriate by itself. I think that's not fair, but I'm telling you, as a three municipalities, as a Wood County and so forth, we've got to find a way, if you think it's a resource. If you don't think it's a resource, let's figure that out and so forth. And so I'm gonna ask in November, I want to hear from the rest of you. Do you see it as a resource or not? And if so, are you willing to take a look at helping support fund that? If not, we need to know that. I think the other thing, just in terms of the tax to service ratio, we have data in terms of how much money, how much tax money has gone directly to the village from 10-year study. We don't have the total amount of what the Nepco Lake people for Port Edwards does. That would be really important to have. How many properties are involved and what's the total amount? It's a significant amount of money. And again, back to the tax to service ratio is pretty significant. The way it was left, in my opinion, in the ad hoc committee was we were supposed to come up with ideas about what to do about that. That seems kind of backwards to me, and I'm not willing to offer suggestions about that and have people say, no, 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 no. I want to know whether you want to engage in a conversation about that so that we can really take a look at that. Right now, we have a status quo budget. It was built before we really have goals. We still don't have a strategic plan. I'm not saying that has to slow us down now, but please, let's get a strategic plan going forward. Let's set some goals for the future, because otherwise we're simply walking a status quo plan, and it's been said in 2 to 3 years, we're gonna be in trouble at budget wise. So we need to have that going forward as well. So that's even bigger than the Nepco Lake thing. So I'm gonna be quiet right now, but I'm asking you to please read Larry's thing. We need to get a little bit more information. But long and short is, I want to have conversation and I want to hear from the board, the extent to which you find the residents, the parcel owners, as well as the lake itself as a resource to the village. And if it isn't one, let's say so. If it is, let's talk about what we can do about it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Before we wrap it up and we kind of digest all of the things and come to committee meetings. Sound good? When is the next cow? I call it cow meetings.
Village board meeting on Wednesday
On
night.
Wednesday, right, but the next committee of the whole for budget is November 7th.
Yeah.
Before
Yes, I believe it's nice.
It's got it right there for us.
Says
5th. Okay, for November 5th, the next budget one.
And again, if you want to take the sheets, I understand. If you don't, leave them here.
Just so we
And
don't.
when we go to committee levels, I'll bring just what's your committee is gonna be talking about at the committee level. I know trustee Hess just walked in. I will update him and if it's today or tomorrow, whatever, I'll update him to keep him up to date. And again, please, stop down by Dan and I if you have questions, right? We'd rather answer a question one-on-one, or so Diane can look in the computer, I can to get you exact information and not at a meeting, because again, we just bring in the paper, we don't have line items and we'll come out of that expenses from last year, so.
Sounds good. All right, without objection, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:09. Thank you.
Yeah.